because it is a little more specific as to what they can store, where and what they can hang up on the walls and the balcony. So everyone, by the time we reach next year's annual, will have signed the new terms and conditions. I included a copy just so that you could view it, our new latest subsidy agreement with the Commonwealth of Mass. It is attachment D in your packet. There's nothing to approve. I just wanted to share it with you. We are working on closing out Fish 170081, which is the balcony roof and the exterior project over there at Pleasant Street. Let's see. On July 24th, Governor Baker signed a law, Chapter 124 of the Act of 2020, which gives all housing authorities extra money for COVID and to deal with the virus. Each housing authority is getting $324 per state subsidized unit. We have 227 units, so that's going to give us an approximate $73,000 that we can spend on cleaning, sanitizing, PPE, overtime, anything else that we need to do to make our buildings safe, including the office, for when we reopen to the public. So that's a win-win for us, because that's money we don't have to take out of our current budget to pay for items that we have to have. So I wanted to share that with you. You have a copy? Yes.
Have you been keeping track of the expenses to date, and is any of that applicable to the past charges, or we just want to look at it going forward?
Well, actually, it is applicable to March, the date when the governor declared. So Chad and I have just created a new spreadsheet to go through past bills, and we are going to itemize everything and keep a running total. And going forward, Frank is going to, on any invoice that he receives, he is going to write COVID supplies in case it only has like an item number, and Chad and I won't know what it is.
Yeah. So on the PO number, he'll attach COVID-19, so we know it's specifically for that purpose. And yeah, I'm already working on a spreadsheet to track that as well.
And this goes through December 30th of this year. So anything that we spend up until the 30th will be part of that COVID money. So we can reimburse the regular budget, you know, on paper for money that we've already spent.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bonnie, could you send out a weekly update on the spreadsheet that Chad's doing, and then we can review the whole thing at the next meeting?
Absolutely. All right. Let me go next. And where am I? DDC Construction added the balconies to the lower railings, and it looks great, as some of us saw yesterday, and it definitely is a safer balcony, that is for sure. If you take a look at attachment F, they have included a change order number 2 that includes that additional scope of work done by the contractor, because that wasn't part of our original contract. I do need a motion to approve change order number 2.
So move.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Dave?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Votes yes. They are approved.
Thank you. Mark Zafanti, I'm not quite sure how to say his name. I apologize if I butchered it. And I met at Pleasant Street, and we walked through. There were no items that the builder, DDC Construction, needed to change, repair, complete. So attachment F is a certificate of final completion that I also need a board vote on.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Bonnie, was Dennis on that walkthrough?
No, he was not, only because I got notified that morning. He asked if I could meet him, and I apologize. I never reached out to Dennis.
He's a construction guy. He's got to start walking through this stuff.
Yes, he has, believe it or not, been at every other meeting, and I do apologize. That was my oversight.
Okay, on the motion to approve, Paul,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
James, yes, is approved.
Thank you. And that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me before I let Chad go?
It's not looking like it.
All right,
All right.
Chad's up.
Hello, everyone. Mayor, I do have an answer. I ran into my office and grabbed the invoice for that $13.50. It's a fee for accounting and reporting services, state modernization. Basically, it's a one-time fee at the end of the year for their reporting on the fish projects for the entire year. And we can submit this bill to DHCD for reimbursement, so it's not actually coming out of our budget. It's coming from the formula funds from DHCD. So, but last meeting, I promised the board an update on the net metering project. I'll kind of just give an overview of the project, and then we can kind of look at some charts and some graphs, and hopefully the sharing screen experience goes well. Our solar farm facility actually yielded an overall performance above forecast for the year. This performance was driven primarily by irradiance above forecast for fiscal year 20. Basically, what that means is there was more sunlight than they had originally projected for the year. So they were able to create more credits. The facility actually incurred multiple intermittent inverter outages during the snow events that were recorded during the months of December 19 through April 20. These occurrences did have an impact on energy generation, but there were no safety, security, or environmental issues recorded. And again, we did still have an overall performance above forecast despite these outages. And administratively, we resolved several billing issues throughout the year, and I'll kind of get into that later. The primary issue occurred over the period of March 2019 through June 2019. During this time, we found credits were not reflecting on statements and adjustments were showing on statements without explanation. And both these issues required a detailed reconciliation of the transfer history between the MCDA, Radiant Generation, and our utility supplier, National Grid. And we continue to see this issue on an intermittent basis, but obviously I continue to monitor and address as they occur. And I'll kind of go into that and I'll show you these discrepancies as they pop up. So I'm going to try to share my screen now. 1 second. Okay, so can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So on the board report, I sent you guys attachment B, which you can see here. Basically captures the fiscal year. All the data is inputted here. And basically, if we just go from, it's by month, you see July, August, September, and then it's by property, Main Street, Bolton Street, Pleasant Street. If you go from left to right, current charges, the solar credit that we receive, and the amount paid to National Grid, the credit that's generated each month, the amount that we have to pay to Goldman Sachs each month, and then the savings that's generated. What's different about attachment B is this column that I created. It's the percentage of credit earned by the MCDA. I basically use this to track any discrepancies. And I'll show you here. Typically, all three properties are around 40%, or typically they're all the same percentage. But here you can see that it's around 69%. So if we take a look, the solar credit for that month was $4,228. And that's typically high for Pleasant Street. It's typically around $2,000 or under for that month. And the reason it's so high is because October didn't receive a credit for that month. But it's not that October didn't receive a credit, it's that the credit was actually combined with September's credit for this month. So that's why this percentage is so high, and then you don't see the percentage here. Well, please let me know if I'm losing anybody. Does this make sense so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Agreed.
And then we continue here. These are all set this month. December's looking good, January. But then we get down to February through March, you can start to see a lot of discrepancies here. So for March, there was no credit for Main Street and Pleasant Street. Obviously, when I saw that invoice, I raised the red flag and I was like, we need to figure this out with Radiant Generation. So we looked at the transfer history and we discovered that. So bear with me here. This is how I kind of discovered where that credit went. If we assume for Bolton Street, this month should be around 49% for each property right here. So if we take 75 from 49 for Main Street for this month, we earned an extra 26% of the credit for that month. Also for Pleasant Street, we earned an extra 26% of the credit for that month. We take that same formula and we apply it here. Bear with me. This will make sense at the end, hopefully. And for Main Street, we also earned an extra 24%. Pleasant Street, we also earned an extra 24% for that month. So what this means is that if we add the 26 with the 24 here, this 50% is where we need to be. So March's Main Street credit, 26% of that credit is in February and 24% is in April. So obviously this isn't ideal, but I spoke with Radiant Generation and we got on the phone with National Grid. The pay period in the billing cycle that Radiant Generation and National Grid are on kind of overlaps, and it's very staggered and it's not predictable when, you know, the utility gets cut off for that month. So basically this credit didn't make the cut for March, and also a part of it got included in April. So it's not that we didn't receive credits in March, it's just that some of it is in February, some of it is in April.
Can you send them a bill for your extra time to straighten this out so we get the proper credits?
It's technically, we do actually send, we do send them a bill for MCDA actually is in charge of the accounting for this project. So that's where that bill actually comes from. So I do get paid for this, technically.
Hey, Chad, I understand paying in arrears, but how do they pay in advance? What do they just estimate?
That is a great question.
Thank you.
Some of it is because our rate that we buy these credits at is at a locked in rate, so they can kind of project forward a little bit. And the credit that's generated in the month of March doesn't get on the March bill, it goes on the April bill. Does that make sense? But you're right. I'm not sure how March's credit got included in February. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, but at the end of the day, the numbers all make sense here.
And on the chart, could you go up on the top of the chart?
Yeah.
Um,
You looking at this?
yeah. No, yeah, because if you look on our information sheet that you sent out, we
Yeah.
didn't include Bolton Street in the calculation. Does that change the total? I'm not looking at what you have on the screen. I'm looking at what Vonnie sent us for the packet. But can you just, when you get a chance, take a look at item M, July? For some reason, Bolton Street is not included in your monthly total.
Okay. I would refer to this spreadsheet. This is the
Okay.
one I've spent a lot of time on.
No, great, good job.
With any questions. And so basically, if we look at the totals for the fiscal year down here, the total current charges for the year were 269,000. We received a credit of 323,000. So that's when I say we were above forecast, that's why. We paid National Grid a total of $1,600. We generated a credit of $55,000. We paid Goldman Sachs $160,000 directly, which creates a savings of $163,000 for the year.
And I think our projections were, when we talked about doing this years ago, we were talking about 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Good.
It's great. And you can tell that we are trending up. For fiscal year 20, it was 163. Fiscal year 19 was 105. Fiscal year 18, 104. And fiscal year 17 was only half the year because didn't start at the beginning of the year, but that's why we only saw 41 there. But we are trending up. Let me go over to this one. I'll show you. This is the cumulative net metering savings from the beginning of the project. And as you can tell, we are going up. We actually, when the project started in November 16, we didn't generate a credit until April. So that's why you see this going down here. And then that's when we received credits from November through March, and we received all of them in April. And then, as you can see, it's starting to go up, but then we had that hiccup here with the big reconciliation. So that's why this went down. We didn't receive credits for a few months. And then here, again, we didn't receive a credit in March of 2020. Well, we did, but remember I explained it was in February and April.
Right.
So does anyone have any questions? And this is, attachment C is basically the same information. It's just on a horizontal scale. This is more of an accounting perspective because it generates a beginning balance and an ending balance for the month. And we can kind of track the credit from month to month with this, which is good. And you can see at the end of the year, I'll go to, in July right now, we have a credit of 102,000. So we're looking pretty good. Does anyone have any questions?
Nice job. Good work in the Excel exercise.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's bring you guys back. Does anyone have any other questions? I think that's all I have.
Any other questions for Chad?
Nope.
Oh, yes, we have Stephanie coming down to sign checks. We just need one more board member.
Yeah, I can come by.
Josh?
Yep.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
You got all the votes you needed, right, Bonnie?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Yes, the payables.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. On that, Dave,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
the chair votes yes, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.